How many times do you think, and you think it's just like such a actual, it's such a bad faith interpretation, really, what it is. When you hear these people like Brian Kilmeade and people like Dan Crenshaw who have shown utter disregard and utter disrespect to these 9/11 victims, saying, quote, you're too busy and you don't want to co-sponsor. Like, where do you get off, is my question, saying, oh, I really respect the 9/11 victims. This person is unbelievable for saying off the cuff, not saying that, saying some people did something, instead of these were 9/11 terrorists. Like, when you can't even be bothered to meet with them to discuss benefits for this bill. Like, it's such a disgrace. And like everyone really who's doing this, like, it's just a bad faith reading, and this is just for your personal political gain. It's ending up inciting violence in death threats against a woman who's done absolutely nothing wrong. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And some of the response for this has just been embarrassingly bad. It's been awful from people like Pelosi, and also awful from people like David Frum, who we're going to get to now. He's a former Bush speechwriter and now is a cushy gig writing pretty dark stuff for The Atlantic. He does not like Representative Ilhan Omar either. Bret Stephens, a climate denier who's a cushy gig writing proto-fascist post from the New York Times, does not like Somali refugee turned elected official from Minnesota, Ilhan Omar, either. So this is pretty shocker. It is really lazy and appalling. It's really bad and appalling and just awful about how lazy these writers are in their attacks on Omar. So on Frum's latest piece on Sunday, for example, which opens with the praise of the president's shrewd political move of tweeting out a heavily edited juxtaposition of 9/11 footage with the one line from Omar's comments at a fundraiser from the Council on American Islamic Relations, is something they could easily see as inciting violence. Like, this person, she's like them. She may as well been in. Pretty much what he's saying is that she may as well been in the plane. She may as well been the terrorist attacking these countries. That's what he wants his base to think, and that is a complete incitement of violence. The death threats have won, and she said, like, they're specifically referencing the video, and there's probably a lot of people who, if she died, say, especially on Donald Trump's, Trump voters would be like, yeah, that's okay, that's fine with me. She's awful. She deserved to, like, and that's totally been a product of people like Fox News and people like Dan Crenshaw stirring this up, and people like Nancy Pelosi refusing to take a tougher stance on this. Like, they've been absolutely abandoning her. It's disgusting, and it just cannot stand. So the general thesis of the piece is that by supporting Ilhan Omar, whose comments at CARE had been blown widely out of proportion and used to fuel a week of dangerously bigoted attacks, Democrats have now fallen into the trap of supporting a radical, which opens them to new attacks from the right. That was from David Frum. Some obvious rebuttals include, that's actually good if the mainstream Democrats adopt Omar's progressive views, that this piece and Frum's entire career right now are an example of the Republican guy who tries to give advice to Democrats who he's obviously working against, and Frum just looking for an excuse to hate a Muslim congresswoman because he's a bigot. Bret Stephens follows it up. He's also kind of hates Muslims and Arabs of all types and varieties as well. Muslims, Arabs. If you pray 5 times a day, you are not good and not normal in Bret Stephens' eyes. The problem is that Frum never actually makes this point in the piece, instead pivoting to more supplementary allegations about why Omar is bad. Here's some of the quotes from what's his name, David Frum, not Ilhan Omar. But the thing is, he says Democrats are falling into the Omar trap. So yeah, this is what he says. Omar's co-headliner at California fundraising event was a lawyer named Hassan Shibli. Shibli is a lawyer for Hoda Muthana, a New Jersey-born woman who married an Islamic State fighter, claimed her adherence to ISIS in writing, and now seeks to return to the United States. Muthana's case turns on the technicalities of citizenship laws, and she's entitled to legal representation. Shibli has stressed her own condemnation of ISIS and Muthana's decision to join it, yet Shibli has spoken in extreme ways against Jews in Israel and the United States. That's a quote from it. And literally, here's the thing. Hassan Shibli and Hoda Muthana had nothing to do with Ilhan Omar. Absolutely nothing. Besides noting that they shared the same stage and both criticized Israel. They're really not barely anything to do with each other. But here's the big thing. It's all about the opportunity to smear Omar just a little bit more by mentioning David Frum, by allowing David Frum to mention ISIS and Omar in the same breath. Some have urged Omar that Omar, some people did something words about 9/11 be understood in context. Let's try that. Frum does not try that, instead pivoting to comparing Trump's comments to the Christchurch mosque shooting to Omar's comments on 9/11, saying, quote, after the Christchurch massacre, New Zealand, Trump tweeted, "My warmest and sympathy and best wishes go out to the 49 people of New Zealand after the horrible massacre in the mosques. 49 innocent people who have so senselessly died, with so many more seriously injured. The U.S. stands by New Zealand for anything we can do. God bless all." By using died rather than the word murdered, and by describing the crime as senseless, Trump abstracted a politically motivated act from the politics that motivated that the crime became a ghastly tragedy, requiring no words from him but the white nationalists police the killer. And yeah, he's right about that. Some people did something performing exactly the same, exonerating service for Islamic extremism as Trump's tweet about Christchurch did for white nationalism. So again, kind of really leading the reader off a little bit of a cliff there. And not trying to understand these after saying literally right before you say what you just said, you say, let's try and understand Omar's remarks in context by literally not putting them in context. Like, that's not how you're really supposed to write, but whatever. There's no context to Omar's speech, which clearly says and condemns the idea of nationalism in all its forms. Like, it's ridiculous. So that is just a little peek of what Ilhan Omar has been getting in on for the past few days. It's been very rough for her, obviously. So if you feel so inclined to, if you do donate, if probably she needs it at this point, it would be good to see if it can if you can try and help in any way, because this is some of the most vicious smears I've ever seen against anyone. And I don't know if I should have said this on the show, but I've said to people I talk to politics about, is be like, yeah, she's in serious, they're going to try and go after her at this point. This is what someone like her is just too radical. Her views cannot be allowed to hold. Just anything she could possibly say. Speaking off the cuff, speaking to an event of people who feel room you feel comfortable in, you say things, and I'm sure there's totally fine ways of saying there's totally a billion examples of her condemning 9/11. I don't think you have to ask her to condemn 9/11. I think it should be obvious that she does condemn 9/11. But it's just unbelievable that I've never seen really anything like this. Just some little twisted words leading to a full 3-4 day news cycle. I just want to comment on that real quickly. All right. Now we turn on to the Democrats, and a great piece filed by Lee Fang about Democrats pledging to not take corporate cash, but they're using a loophole to do it anyway. Jason Crow was one of the victorious Democrats who ran in last year's midterm election on a promise to reject campaign cash controlled by business interests. Crow is now a member of Congress from Colorado. He touted his pledge to not take a dime of corporate PAC money. Recently, campaign finance filings revealed that 2 weeks after being sworn into office, Crow accepted $5,000 from the American Hospital PAC, which represents public and private hospital companies across the country. Colorado Democrats now one of several newly elected Democrats to have run on a pledge to screw corporate PAC money, take it out of the campaign, say no, sir, but have found a broad loophole to begin collecting funds from political action committees affiliated with big business. So the way that works is you don't have to have the, for example, the McKesson or the Purdue Pharma PAC give to you, but you can have the Pharma Network Associated PAC give to you, something that represents the entire industry, not just one company. So because there are those things that exist. So it's one of the big loopholes that they've been able to find here to take corporate PAC money to serve their donors at all times. He's been collecting funds from political action committees affiliated with these big businesses, which is quite revealing. Democrats harnessed the pledge to take no corporate PAC money as part of his commitment to reduce the influence of special interest in Washington. The candidates are now some newly elected officials are part of a wave of progressive Democrats harnessing grassroots energy and discontent with politics as usual. These sentiments have filtered up to Democratic legislative initiatives. The party rallied behind the For the People Act of 2019, which contains sweeping provisions on voting rights, ethics reforms, and overhaul of the campaign finance system designed to limit the research of big business over elections. The reach of big business over elections. Some lawmakers, however, are now finding ways to inch away from the spirit of the pledge that helped distinguish their campaign. Let's give you some names here. We got Paul Ryan, the vice president of Common Cause, which opposes money in politics. Not Paul S. Ryan, not Paul Ryan, the former Speaker of the House. He noted that the differences between corporate trade association and corporate companies are really minor at best. And importantly, a corporate PAC can solicit contributions from its stockholders and executive or administrative personnel. Likewise, he says a trade association PAC can solicit contributions from the stockholders and executive or administrative personnel of the member corporations of such trade organizations. So yeah, if you get all pretty much the pharma companies together, or the healthcare companies, or the steel producing companies together, you could make such a more powerful beast, such a more powerful monster, and such a more, it kind of takes out the middleman. Like, you just got one kind of, one person, instead of going from company to company to company, you get the money, you just get it all in one place, get more all in one place. It's really convenient, actually, even if it is really, really bad and slimy. So that is kind of what's going on there. One politician is Lori Trahan of Massachusetts. She kind of exercised those loopholes. She said last year, when she was a candidate, I firmly believe that we needed to root out the corruptive influence of money in politics, which is why I refuse to take any money from corporate PACs, Trahan wrote. Good job. The week before Election Day, the Food Marketing Institute, which represents grocery giants such as Walmart, Safeway, and Kroger, gave Trahan $1,000. Around the same time, the American Hotel and Lodging Association, which lobbies on behalf of Marriott International, Wyndham Hotels, and others, also chipped in $1,000. Everyone's chipping $1,000. I like that. Trahan received a contribution from the Internet and Television Association, known as the NTTA, of $1,000 as well. The trade group represents telecommunications and broadcast giants like Comcast, Cox Communications, and AT&T Warner Media. So it's really not much of a big difference. Like, you're still taking money that comes almost directly from corporations. Like, sure, it goes through the trade industry, but I really don't see, like, to any logical person look at it, I don't see how it makes any difference. All right. Now you know about that. Let's take a turn to one Democrat who actually has rejected corporate money, AOC and Nancy Pelosi. Since before AOC took office, the Speaker of the House has not missed an opportunity, not once, to get in a not-so-subtle dig at her freshman New York congressman, who's helped bring a burst of interest in the Democratic left through her youth energy and advocacy for the Green New Deal. Pretty much, aside from her, really, the only person in Congress that people actually truly like. I think it's a lot more for people. People just respect AOC. I think if it hasn't been for the months and months of right-wing smears, it would have been a lot more illuminating. And I think at least her district still likes her. We know that, but she has faced a tough run of it. Pelosi trashed the Green New Deal on the day it came out as the Green Dream or whatever they call it, adding nobody knows what it is, but they're right. So again, just shots after shots, people saying literally the day she get elected, she was like, "It's not a big deal, guys. It's not a big deal." The day she won the primary, the day after, she was like, "It's from one district, right?" And here, watch this not so subtle direct shot across the bow of the quote unquote new left.
So you are contending with a group in Congress. Over here on the left flank are these self-described socialists. On the right, these moderates. And you yourself said that you're the only one who can unify everybody. And the question is, can you?
By and large, whatever orientation they came to Congress with, they know that we have to hold the center, that we have to go down the mainstream.
They know that?
They do.
But it doesn't look like that. It looks as if